Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hope is Not a Plan podcast. I am your host, Kevin Pennell, and my inspiration for today's episode, 3 ways to teach kids life skills they'll actually use, comes from a recent Mother's Day project, actually. I completed the installation of a floor receptacle in my living room that we've been talking about for a while. It's the second time I've done this. I did this in my previous house. As I measured, cut, wired, tested, I was reminded of my father, who recently passed away. And I appreciated the time he spent with me as a kid, and more so as a man, to teach me these kinds of things. What not to touch, how to cut, measure twice, cut once, all that kind of stuff. And then just the machinations of doing home projects. So in today's episode, I'm going to pay that forward to the current or soon-to-be dads or moms who want to empower, not coddle their kids, and provide them with know-how superpowers of their own. But first, welcome to the Hope is Not a Plan podcast, where we address tough questions head on, face our problems, and highlight our hopes by providing actionable planning steps to improve ourselves, mind, body, and spirit. Now, let's get logged in and get locked on to this episode of the Hope is Not a Plan podcast. All right, powerful planning parents, welcome back. And first, happy Mother's Day 2024 to all the moms who empowered many of us to be dads. Thank you all for coming back to the Hope is Not a Plan podcast. Now let's continue to empower our kids. The first of these 3 ways that I believe we can teach kids life skills they'll actually use is let's build these confident crusaders. Have you seen other people's children's faces when they accomplish something? Right? If you've coached a soccer team or taught kids jujitsu or just helped somebody work through a problem, like the joy and sense of pride, it just glows all around them, doesn't it? Like that's what we want from our offspring. I think we want confident kids. Kids that may not know exactly how, but that feel supported and give it a shot. Like we want these confident crusaders, right? So how can we do this? Here's my 2 cents from my 17 years of parenting, from my 50 years of being someone's child and what I enjoyed and what didn't. So I hope this helps you all too, is give your kids chores to do. Pretty straightforward, pretty basic, but I know some folks don't. I love this teaching methodology of see one, do one, teach one. And I've implemented this with folks at work, but here we're talking about with each of my Pennell quote things, the things from Whoville or from the Dr. Seuss books. And as one of my sons, one of my things becomes more proficient, I then ask them to hand down the knowledge by showing their younger brother, I have 3 sons, how to accomplish the given tasks, right? So I'm going to show them how to do it. I'm going to teach them how to do it while we work together. And then I'm going to ask them to show me or let them show me and then let them show their younger siblings. Like chores, for example, that my sons regularly complete and I recommend that everyone push this and guide and lead their children to do this, is making their bed, right? It sets the tone. I'm not the first person to say that, but it starts the whole day with an accomplishment and sets the tone that we're going to take care of our things. Other frequent confidence builders is mowing the lawn on a driving lawnmower, which my 17 and 13-year-old do and have done, and my 11-year-old we're getting ready to teach about. Talk about smiles riding around on that thing. They rode around on that with their grandfather and with me when they were little, and now as they get bigger, they get to drive. It's awesome. Emptying and refilling the dishwasher. Clear, concise, empty it, fill it with the sink stuff, put the stuff in the drying rack away. Just getting this process stuff going, right? Building these life skills. Washing, drying, and folding and putting away their clothes, right? Do you do all that for your kids? Maybe it's good to let them learn how to do this. I was ironing my clothes before I even went in the Navy when I was in high school. It's just good to know, and that's from my mom teaching me and my dad. They feed the dogs, right? They're responsible for that. They water plants, they cook dinner, they bake cookies, and much more. And the gist of it is a regular routine of chores, a regular routine of responsibility sets the tone, as we as adults know, for later in life. It also practically helps around the house. So boom, parents win, right? In addition to these repetitive chores, I also have over the years regularly invited my sons to help me with projects like this receptacle I just put in. Car maintenance. Here's how you change the oil. Here's how you clean the inside of your car. Here's how you vacuum it. I have chosen to teach them weapon safety. They have fired guns. They know not to touch them. They know how to safely handle them if they find it. That's a life-saving skill, we've heard stories about kids picking up guns and shooting other kids, right? From some irresponsible adult. And that's what it is that leaves a gun around. And I encourage them and show them examples of physical exercise. I exercise every day in some form, whether it's yoga, whether it's a recovery stretching day, whether it's heavy lifting, light lifting, running. But we as parents should show our kids that, right? And you want to talk about a life skill. Exercise is a mental and physical empowering thing. And I would say spiritual to the point that, man, when you are pushed super hard on the assault bike, you are pushing your own spirit beyond an uncomfortable position. And so I am fortunate that that has been a positive thing. My oldest son outlifts me in things. It's 17 years old in some weights. My younger sons are athletic and play sports, and it really does a lot for them. You see their confidence build up throughout the season. So how do each of these build confidence? I'm going to walk through some examples here, and I'll go way into it in the next step here. But, driving a lawnmower is fun. I mentioned that, right? It's very empowering for a preteen to be able to drive something, let alone a lawnmower throughout the yard. And it's just a cool time. The monotony and verbal reminders about dishes and house cleanliness, they reinforce to me that this isn't just your parents' house, it's yours. Take pride in things, right? It's your own home. Cooking and baking, gosh, if they can prepare their own food and bake things, well, we get desserts. And then they know how to do that kind of stuff, right? It's also positive feedback. We're like, man, this one was good, or this was good, but let's try this next time. And we keep iterating on cookies we bake, or trying to make the perfect sandwich. We have sandwich contests, right? Who can make the best sandwich? We slice them up, we all taste it. And that's just great human interaction. And it's an awesome way to start building up that pillar 5 connection. Just a really great way to do that with your kids and yourself. The regular chores, they teach that life discipline. And the special projects have helped my sons learn how to troubleshoot, right? I mentioned weapon safety just makes them actually safer. Being physically active builds their confidence, which, in the world, in their school world, you see a confident kid, they're probably less likely to get messed with. And they can make connections of their own to other kids that are active or of their own ilk. But it's made a really big difference. So the first thing I say is get your kid chores to do, right? It builds their confidence, and don't just tell them how to do it. This is where, and we'll get into this, the coaching versus consulting thing, right? Am I going to kind of help you with asking you some questions, or am I just going to show you, which doesn't really empower them? The second way I believe we can teach kids life skills they'll use forever is we're going to make these problem-solving powerhouses, right? So we're going to assign and expect the kids to do chores in this structure. It helps lighten the load for us, as I mentioned, and it sets that foundation. So this is an example I'm just going to go through on how we can build some problem-solving. Mowing the lawn. Right? So picture a John Deere riding lawnmower, little green and yellow deal. It's sitting there. It's covered. Now it's thing number 2, my 13-year-old's time to cut the grass. So 1, mowing the lawn overall is a process full of problem solving. Here's the checklist that you have to go through from start to end. We have to get the lawnmower key, which to me teaches getting the right tool for the job. Right? I could probably use a screwdriver and break the mechanism and start it, but that's not good. Let's use the right thing. Second, uncover the mower. We have to prepare our equipment to use it, or if we're doing a project, we have to kind of read the business case. We have to get ahead and get ready to do the work. Check the gas. Pre-flight checks, right? Just like when we're on airplanes, or checking to make sure that thing you're going to use is ready. The pencil is sharpened, right? The network drops are set up, whatever it is. Then for us, we're going to attach these grass collecting bags. That means sometimes you have to modify a tool to fit the job that you need. Sometimes we don't need the bags because we're just mulching. So it teaches them that adaptability. What's the task you're doing, and how do you have to configure the tool to do it? Then intermittently, we're going to empty those bags, right? They're filling up with grass. So this is a monitoring capability. I have to both look at where I'm going and then pay attention to what I've done so that the bags don't overflow or the lawnmower doesn't stall out. Then I need to remove the grass collecting bags when I'm done, which means I'm going to learn repetitively and over again to leave things better than I found them, to put them back, to have them ready for the next time so that I don't have to come back, empty things just to get started. So I've got to do work and clean up after somebody else. That's a recurring theme that's helpful to teach our kids. Now I'm going to let the mower cool down, which means I have to know my equipment, because that nice all-weather cover, if we put it on when it's hot, that's not good for it, right? And then we're going to recover it. We're taking care of our equipment. So from start to finish, We have thought about, what do I need to get it done? How do I adapt during this process? How do I get things back to completion and closing it out? And then how do I tie that off, knowing that the thing I'm using, the equipment, in this case, the John Deere, will be ready for next time, barring some random thing happening. So we are making problem solvers, and we need to let our kids problem solve. And when you assign them a task, and when you're comfortable that you've shown them, and now it's time for them to do it, then we need to let them do it. And ask them and make them comfortable with asking us questions. Hey, it's okay if you don't know. Come ask me. The third thing is communication, I believe. So we want to make sure that we're building confidence, that we're teaching problem solving, and that we are teaching our kids how to communicate. Well, let's make them communications champions to be catchy. But to me, this all starts with a solid handshake and a confident look in another person's eyes, whether you're a boy or a girl, right? It's standard for my sons, and it's an expectation. You say hello, you shake the hand, you look the person in the eye. It builds their confidence, right? A solid grip and a confident look, it tells other people like, hey, I'm confident and I'm comfortable. I hate when I give a bad handshake. I do it over. It speaks a lot, right? And other folks pick up on that too, and they appreciate it. It'll serve them well among their peers, right? However often they're actually shaking hands with their schoolworkers versus high fives versus whatever they do these days. But for the rest of their lives, when they meet people that could be network, or connections in their professional or their personal network, they'll remember that. A good handshake, not a crazy vice grip, and certainly not a dead fish hand, and looking you in the eye, not just looking away, says a lot. But the handshake and the nonverbal communication is just one way, right, to cultivate a child who's going to be a champion at communicating. Another is for us to listen as parents, to listen to what our kids say, how they say it, how they look as they say it, and as important is what they don't say. Like, I've run the gamut of talking over my kids because I was excited, or I thought, I have to tell you a lot because it's unsafe, or I think it is, or I think you don't know. And right, that's part of our evolution too, is teaching them things they don't want to do that we weren't good at or we get better at. So I've done that. Or I've also heard one of my sons, thing number 3, give me a 10 to 15 minute dissertation on the entire Pokemon universe. And when I saw the spark in his eye and the excitement, I just had to sit there and appreciate it, right? I'm not big on those, but I know he is. And so this is where we communicate to our kids. We want to hear what you have to say. It's awesome you put that time in to learn those things, right? And their smile when they're so excited talking about things they love is awesome. And that's where it's easy for us as adults when we're busy or we're tired. We just want to sit there and watch our show or play our game or go have a drink on the veranda or whatever we're going to do, or have to get to another job. Take some minutes and listen to your kids. Let them talk to you about what they're passionate about. In addition to listening and to hear the kids, not just to respond, right? That's a big communication skill, is we're obligated to provide guidance. So the communication is nonverbal with handshakes and looking, and then we're listening. And then we do need to give guidance, right? That's part of it, right? We balance our coaching, which is asking questions or prompting questions and letting them figure it out, with consulting or providing more of the solution with them, right? This is where I've found the most value of balancing these out. So I've coached my kids and others through jiu-jitsu, workouts, baking cookies, when they had their own ideas about creating comic book characters. I used to draw a lot. I have a huge comic book collection. I love it. So I loved sitting there and just prompting them, of, hey, well, when you look at this, just consider kind of this angle or that. And the only way to get better at something like drawing is you got to keep doing it over and over. But where I tend to consult more, which means I'm going to tell them more, is when safety is involved, right? And that cooking and that baking, when there's a gas stove. My oldest is using car jacks and jack stands and really into mechanics and cars, and it's awesome. But of course, it's dangerous. Or if they're going to do some plinking with a BB gun, of course, we're going to, right, finger off the trigger, safety's on, it's not loaded, it always points down range, which means down toward your target. All the basic safety rules, every single time. We're not going to sweep the barrel against people. And this is where I work with them, and then I get even letting maybe one of my older sons that has more trigger time on the BB gun to help teach my younger son, right? Because they relate to each other different than they do as us as parents, and that's great. But the safety standard is exactly the same. And for me as a father and protector, I need to be more verbal and intentional to know, like, this is the safety standard or you can't participate in these things. Whether it's don't sit there with your legs under the car when it's under the jack stand when you're not working, to don't, sweep toward anybody with the barrel of a BB gun. So let's talk about some 5 exercises that I've used and found helpful and my kids have benefited from based on their feedback to scale your coaching and consulting based on their age. So within these, again, these skills, we're building confident folks through chores. We're teaching them how to problem solve by letting them work through some of these chores and projects. And then we're teaching them how to communicate with a handshake and a look, listening, and then giving them guidance. And so here's some ways that you can apply what I've just said and what I've found helpful, what I've learned from both what worked and didn't work. First thing is make a chore chart. What's the chore? What's the day it's due? And who's going to do it? Doesn't have to be anything crazy. There's fancy things on Pinterest. You can get a little whiteboard, a chalkboard, get a piece of paper, whatever. Just really simple. Who is it? If you have more than one child, when does it due? And who owns it? The second thing is partner with them on a project, right? The next time you fix something, whatever it is, you're sewing buttons back on, you're fixing your car, you're doing whatever it is, and put them on the repair crew. Say, hey, I want to do this thing and I want to hang out with you and I want to teach you this thing. 3 is get them up and moving. Physical activity for kids is paramount. It will help their mental health unbelievably. Obviously, their physical health. Take your son or daughter on a walk. Take them through a workout. I do the warrior workouts. And we do the Murph. We did the Travis Manning. We do a bunch of things. But it doesn't have to be a warrior workout or a CrossFit wood or anything. It can be simple. Again, it's a walk and some activity. Number 4 is get them reading books, right? Fund that book fair they keep asking you for $5 or $10 or $20 for. Let them get books they love. They could be doing something worse than reading a book in your house, right? Take them to the library. The library's got tons of great books for free. An amazing resource. And the 5th thing is pay them for their efforts. Start an allowance or scale pay for certain chores. So as they're learning how to actually do things in the world, as they're learning how to troubleshoot through doing those things, they realize, oh, if I put in the effort, I get more electronic time, or I get more freedom to make my own choices, or I get money to spend on things I want. So when it is time for the book fair, they will have done their chores and earned their $20, and it's their money anyway. Right? So that's a great cycle of things to do. So chore chart, bring them in on a project, get them moving regularly, get them reading books, pay them for the work that they do. Fellow parents, future parents, parenting is very hard, right? It's got ups, downs, and everything in between, every other direction you can think of. I really do, that once you become a parent, you own the responsibility to empower your child or children to become as self-sufficient as possible. Because someday we're not going to be here. We have to prepare them for the big wide world that exists outside of your home that you don't control. You can control the sphere of it when you're with them. You can kind of be the Secret Service agent of your family, all these different things, but at some point you're not gonna. So if you've empowered them by helping them be confident and know how to do work and know how to problem solve and know how to communicate and whatever skills come with that, then as a parent, you've won. You've put another able human into the world. Thank you for your ability to listen to the show on whatever podcast platform. If you can leave a review on Apple or Spotify, that'd be awesome. Go to hopesnotaplan.com for the write-up for this episode, for more info on those 7 pillars that I focus on to balance my life, on foundational 5 things. There's some products I have that I use that help keep me in shape at 50, that help me today get a 245-pound bench press PR. That's that regular movement. That's that nutrition. And I don't, eat perfect all the time. Nobody does. But there's some helpful resources at hopesnotaplan.com, at hopesnotaplan, Instagram, Twitter, Hope Is Not a Plan, YouTube channel, just busted 400,000 views. I share fitness about 15 seconds at a time there, some funny pizza reviews, a few other things, but largely I film parts of my workout, I share them with you. I've benefited from people doing that, and I hope you do as well. Stay safe out there, parents. Keep empowering your kids, and I wish you all Godspeed.